This is the Feminist Frame with another episode where we talk some of our favorite movies, TV shows, games, and anything pop culture through a feminist lens. I'm Olivia, here with Aubrey. Today we're going to discuss the wonderful wizarding world of Harry Potter. The 10th overall film in the entire Wizarding franchise, The Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, was released last month. We've only seen this once, but here's our hot take on how the film looks from a feminist point of view. In today's episode, we hope to touch on direction, plot, character development, continuity issues, and, of course, the casting choice of Johnny Depp.
So welcome. Here's a quick summary of what's happening in the film before we jump in. Of course, if you have not seen the movie, there will be spoilers, so maybe bookmark this and come back when you're ready. But we're starting out with Newt, trying to track down Credence Barebone, a known obscurial. Of course, the American crew from the first Fantastic Beasts joins in the fun, as does Newt's brother Theseus and his fiancée Lita. All of our principals crash together with Grindelwald and his goon squad in a finale that draws some hard lines in the sand.
So I wanted to start out talking about the filming and direction overall. So I wanted to get your take on what you thought about those uber close-ups.
So that was such a weird choice for me. And I feel like I should say that I don't remember which of us bought the tickets, but there weren't that many left in the theater. So we were right under the screen too. So maybe that exaggerated a little bit. But they were doing this directorial style of extreme close-ups in the beginning with Newt and his
zooming
brother.
in all the way to see every one of their freckles.
It was really awkward and didn't make a lot of sense. And let me just say that and we've talked about The Handmaid's Tale before on this podcast, that's a style choice in that show that I think makes a lot of sense because you're getting this raw emotion and there's a reason to do it. And it just seemed overly film school proud and not really expressing any kind of moral or emotional reasoning behind the film. Besides looking awkward.
Yeah, I think I actually leaned over to you during the movie and was the only reason I can think that they're doing is so they can show Newt's brother's freckles, so you know that they're related.
There didn't seem to be a good choice behind it. And then also they don't carry it through the whole film. They literally use it in those first two scenes and then never again. So you're
and then never bothered me again. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, for coming from somebody that's not a huge film studies person, I never notice or pick up on things close-ups, camera shots, whatever, anything like that, unless they're distracting. So that's definitely why I'm not a fan, because it's just if I don't have a comment on it, then you're doing something right, because I'm not noticing that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was strange. And going in, I also thought some of the cuts in the movie were pretty odd. It seemed so jumpy.
They just kept skipping around and...
Yeah, at certain points I was was I not paying attention? Did we just miss something?
No, they just left all that stuff on the cutting room floor, I think. There was plenty of scenes where you were watching it and then just a character just shows up there and you're oh, hey, when did you show up? Because we haven't seen you at all in this scene.
And I know they had so much to work with and so much to do, but if you're going to cut out a scene maybe that melds two scenes together, that's fine, but you need to show us and I don't think everything needs to be spelled out for the audience, but there was a lot of whoa, when did we get to Nicholas Flamel's house? When did that happen? Weird, we're just here now. That's not leaving something for the audience to interpret. That's just bad storytelling. Right. So it was definitely a little awkward, and I think it's because they're trying to fit in so much.
And because they probably filmed a lot of that too. They just cut it all out.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder how much of that is J.K. Rowling not being a scriptwriter by trade and used to being able to have longer form, and maybe what should have been edited in the screenplay was edited in the cutting room to try to get this movie down to a still lasting 3 hours.
Right. Under 3 hours. Actually, it's funny that you said that because I just saw that they actually have the original screenplay out in print. So I'm thinking about getting it and kind of like comparing.
I want to know
because it's definitely something that I was interested in. Like, did you tell us at all that, you know, this character was showing up at this party or what? So.
Yeah, obviously, like, that's just a theory, but that's the only reason. I think that J.K. Rowling's a smart writer, and that's what I think is happening, is that her being, you know, transitioning into film is, like, leaving a little bit of...
some holes there,
Yeah.
So I kind of want to also talk about, like, the various character pairs that we have throughout here. So I guess, like, Guy's movie, I guess, Newt Scamander. What do you think about Newt's character and his transition from his first film, where he's kind of, you know, the solo star, into this where we're trying to introduce, you know, Grindelwald and, like, Dumbledore and the rest of the wizarding world into it?
So, obviously, Newt and, like, Eddie Redmayne are such an adorable, like, you know, likable, nice guy that you just want to cheer for.
Or, you know, have orgasms with while you're just watching him work.
My God.
Do you remember that scene?
But then I was going to say, it's just, like, so unnecessary for all women characters to be fawning over him. And it so is this, like, you know, Reddit nice guy complex where, like, oh, he's so great. Look at all the women are in love with him, even though he's awkward.
I just couldn't handle that scene with his assistant. So he goes
if
back into
you don't know what we're talking about, yeah, she's like down. He's riding this sea creature in the water, and when she gets splashed, she like,
orgasmic face, like full on big O.
Oh my gosh. And I mean, I guess props for like showing a woman orgasm in film because it's kind of rare, but maybe not the appropriate point.
Yeah, it was a little awkward.
And she had no purpose other than to be another person fawning all over him.
Right. Like, we get it. He's cute and clumsy, and I guess that's sexy.
Such a strange choice. And then, like, Newt as a character, we have this other love interest with Tina, but I was saying it really feels like Nick from The Great Gatsby, where, like, you know, nothing's really about him. He's just here to narrate and have some really cute animals along the way, but he's not entirely compelling or story-worthy on his own.
Oh, for sure. I think they were maybe getting somewhere with the Lita interactions that he had.
Yeah.
Because they have a history together, you know, but now Lita's engaged to his brother that, you know, can stir up a whole bunch of drama. And I think it was, like, getting close to making that character more interesting. But, yeah, him on his own in this movie, I don't think he was able to hold it up. And speaking of lack of personality, his love interest, Tina, the Aura from America, like, did she not have a better personality in the first one? I feel like she was more independent and, like, go get 'em.
Yeah, and now, like, the whole first hour of this movie, when she's supposed to be this, like, badass Aura tracking down, you know, incredibly powerful wizards, she's just, like, bumming over her lost love interest, man, and Newt, and, like,
she's quiet and just lame. I don't know. She doesn't got anything shining through in this movie.
And it's not like a feminist character can't experience a heartbreak, right? But it was just not the best example of independence in this movie from, like, what her personality kind of was supposed to be in the first one, to the extent that she had one at all, to just, like, pouty McPowderson.
Like, lovesick puppy that, like, I don't care about, like, anymore, you know?
Well, and that's what, like, I feel like 0% of the audience is even invested in this. Like, sure, get together, we don't really care. Can you get to some of these other things and the history of this world, which we need to talk about because, you know, ever-changing history, apparently.
Before we, I guess, get to some of what I see, and I think what a lot of people see, is the major retcons that are of epic proportions. I kind of wanted to dive into some of these other characters. For example, we were talking about how Newt sort of was getting interesting whenever he came across Lita. So I was super excited to, see Zoe Kravitz playing Lita Lestrange. Just the gorgeous, talented,
human,
wonderful human being. So she plays Lita Lestrange, and she's engaged to Theseus, Newt's brother. Clearly, her and Newt had some history in the past there, whether it was at Hogwarts right after or whatnot. But I thought their relationship was interesting, but I also thought that Lita was kind of almost overlooked in this movie. Yeah, like they didn't really do much with her character until later on, when you just get that like character dump, which I think is lazy storytelling.
And it's an
about
absolutely like tell and not show, Yeah, we're just like, oh, by the way, here's her entire backstory and why she's so mysterious and sad. Like,
it was just, I think, incredibly lazy, and I think really unfair to that character.
Oh, and when Zoe Kravitz is doing such a good job holding it down for having, not a lot to go on, in my opinion. And I also, I don't know if you noticed this, but there's like, obviously, JK's got a formula. She's kind of reusing some things, but like a little bit of Snape vibes with the like being bullied, but actually being a good character, where there's a little bit, there's quite a few instances, and Lita is one of them, where we're like reusing storylines, recycling from the original story.
Interesting. I never thought of it in that way before. But yeah, I don't know. She does come off as a like tragic character.
And Newt, much like Lily, is the only person who's nice to her, and that's who she's in love with for it.
And it's I don't know. I'm still not sure how I feel about that sacrifice at the end. Whenever they kill her off, essentially, I think. I think that it's still early, and they could even. I'm of the opinion they can undo it, because you got Zoe Kravitz for this role, like you're
just gonna throw her right back out the door. Yeah, no,
So I'm still, holding my breath, hoping they bring her back. As much as I
want her to survive, I feel like that's lazy too.
Like just a cheap shot to throw in there.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and like I'm really happy to see more women of color being given a lot of screen time in this movie, especially compared to like the original franchise. But we mentioned this a little bit, but it also seems colorblind to not really give her a powerful story.
Well, and I think, coming from a colorblind sort of casting perspective, like they go through her backstory, right, where her, we find out her brother essentially tells her about how, tells the crew about how their mother was essentially kidnapped, had the Imperious Curse placed on her by the Lestrange daddy. So he basically kidnaps her mother, rapes her under this Imperious Curse, which consent, we'll get back to that later. But then, Lita's born out of this sort of rape scenario, which is very, very dark, and echoes a lot of what was happening in history at that time and previous, like through slavery and everything.
Absolutely.
But they never really have that affect her in her life. I mean, this is like the 1920s, and you're just going to ignore all of what's going on with her and her life and the world. Like, it seems a little...
And the idea that they seem to be trying to portray is that, like, the wizarding world is post-race, right? That they only care about whether you were born into magic or born into being a muggle, because that's the issue at hand. But...
Like,
it does
those muggles have other problems.
Yeah, and I think that's part of Grindelwald's appeal, right? Is that he's saying, like, oh, look at these humans. Or these mortals, they have these problems, and that's, the wizarding world is above it. But it does, it seems shallow and maybe just a little short-sighted on that part.
Because they're also, like, not just in, you know, the magical world. They live within the realm of the Muggle